Hello, I'm Scarlett Hall, Marketing Director with Pulse Financial Services. Thank you for joining us today for Retire on Purpose. I'm going to spend some time discussing a topic our society spends a lot of time talking about, and that's retirement planning. But I'd submit we, as the financial services industry, have focused too myopically on the discussion. I'm going to ask you to join me in leaving retirement income planning behind and focus solely on retirement living planning. When you no longer have a job to go to, what will get you out of bed every morning? Please have a pen and paper handy to do a few exercises with us, and please have your volume able to be turned up for when I show a few short videos during this workshop. If this webinar sparks any thoughts or questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our office to consult with our financial advisors, Stephanie and Andy. I want you to write down a formula, M equals R, where money equals a happy retirement. That's been our focus, right? What's the problem with that? It's a great start, but all you have is money and time. How will you live? What will you do? The real formula should be P plus M equals R, where P stands for a plan, or more accurately, purpose. And this formula is the basis for our workshop today. Pulse Financial Services, we are a family-owned business specializing in retirement income planning with two advisors, one working out of each of our offices. Stephanie Anderson works out of our Cedar Rapids office, and Andy Umbach is out of our Lisle, Illinois location. We are an independent firm, which means we are not constrained by mandates and conflicts of interest imposed by a corporation or shareholders, and we are not product manufacturers or distributors, which allows us to offer objective and client-focused financial services. Next, let's take a few minutes to go over some important disclosures. This presentation was not meant to be viewed on a mobile device. John Nelson, Christine Whalen, and Richard Leader were paid for their commentary, and their views do not necessarily reflect those of Jackson. Jackson is the marketing name for Jackson National Life Insurance Company and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Jackson National Life Distributors, LLC. Information is provided by Pulse Financial and written by Jackson, a non-affiliate of Cetera Advisors, LLC. The views stated in this presentation are not necessarily the opinion of Cetera Advisors and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. And due to the volatility within the markets mentioned, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable. However, their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Past performance does not guarantee future results. What was that sound? It was an alarm clock. How many of you dream of the day you never have to hear that sound again? I do too. In fact, I dream of throwing my phone out the window sometimes. After all, the idea of doing anything I want whenever I want sounds really great. Many folks feel this way until they start getting closer to retirement. Usually about 5-ish years out, some folks start to realize that not having a reason to get up in the morning might actually be a terrible thing. We have several clients who work past their planned retirement date voluntarily, and sometimes it's because of this fear. So, I'd like to start this workshop by showing you a brief clip. It's the opening of the movie The Intern with Robert De Niro. Let's hear what he has to say about the expectations of retirement versus the realities.
Freud said, love and work, work and love. That's all there is. Well, I'm retired and my wife is dead. As you can imagine, that's given me some time on my hands. My wife's been gone for 3.5 years. I miss her in every way. And retirement, that is an ongoing, relentless effort in creativity. At first, I admit I enjoyed the novelty of it. Sort of felt like I was playing hooky. I used all the miles I'd saved and traveled the globe. The problem was, no matter where I went, as soon as I got home, the nowhere to be thing hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized the key to this whole deal was to keep moving. Get up, get out of the house, and go somewhere. Anywhere. Come rain or shine, I'm at my Starbucks by 7:15.
Excuse me, mind if we join you here? Hey, how are you?
Can't explain it, but it makes me feel part of something.
These guys today, they're not listening, guys. Don't talk to me.
How do I spend the rest of my days? You name it. Golf, books, movies, pinochle, tried yoga, learned to cook, bought some plants, took classes in Mandarin. Jiangxinhua, hua, jimadao, jiguala. Translation, believe me, I've tried everything. And then, of course, there are the funerals. So many more than I could imagine. The only traveling I do these days is out to San Diego to visit my son and his family. They're great, I love them to pieces, but to be honest, I think I probably relied on them way more than I should. Don't get me wrong, I'm not an unhappy person. Quite the contrary. I just know there's a hole in my life and I need to fill it. Soon.
So, what De Niro describing here is a very real situation for many retirees. In fact, research shows that retirees experience what's called a sugar rush as they enter retirement. That is feelings of joy followed by a sharp decline in happiness, and it happens in a matter of months. And remember what De Niro said? He at first said he enjoyed the novelty of it, like he was playing hooky. But then the nowhere to be thing hit him like a ton of bricks. And maybe the most powerful thing, I'm not an unhappy person. I just know there's a hole in my life and I need to fill it. So what's happening here? Well, what most people don't understand is that when we leave work, we leave a part of our identity behind, and that gap can't be filled with busy work. That's why retiring on purpose, with a purpose, is so critical. In fact, you'll see that our health and longevity in retirement depend on it. I want to introduce you to Kate Paul. Of all the people that we did research with and interviewed, her story was one of the most interesting. You'll see that Kate, as she puts it, failed at retirement. She retired after decades as a high-level executive. Her finances were just fine, but take a listen to what she told us.
I was a pre-retiree, a retiree, a failed retiree, and now I'm a pre-retiree again. I retired the first time when I was 53. I thought that everything would be absolutely fabulous because I wouldn't have to work again and I was still young and I could do all kinds of fun stuff. And I failed miserably at retirement because I hadn't given any thought to what I would do when I was retired. I just thought it'd be really great not to have to go to work again, and that would kind of be the end of it, and I could travel and do all the fun stuff I wanted to do and be on nonprofit boards and a couple of corporate boards. I was also the chair of the Denver Federal Reserve Bank Board, and one of the things that I really didn't consider was that while I could be busy, and I was really busy, going from one thing to the other, it really was sort of just a task activity-driven existence. It really wasn't doing things that I really wanted to do, or that gave me some sort of really terrific satisfaction.
What did you think of the focus of Kate's message? She had a bucket of money, but she still failed at retirement because she didn't have a plan or a purpose. So why is retirement harder than we expect? One of the answers is time. This chart represents a day in the life of employed people aged 25 to 54 with children. This is sleeping. This is the time you spend working. And this is everything else: childcare, cleaning, cooking, exercise, everything. So in retirement, time is both the good news and the bad news. It's kind of like a frenemy. I know this seems counterintuitive, but filling all that time is harder than you think. Try doing this for 20 to 30 years, maybe more. Remember, every day is Saturday. How many of you have been on vacation for a week and were ready to go back to work? To get the question of how we avoid failing at retirement, as Kate Paul said, we sought the expertise of some of the foremost thinkers in the country on living well in retirement. Richard Leder, executive life coach, best-selling author of The Power of Purpose. John Nelson, retirement educator, co-author of What Color is Your Parachute for Retirement. And Christine Whalen, clinical professor of consumer science, University of Wisconsin. So let's hear from these experts on how they see the current state of retirement and their thoughts on how to approach it.
There are many expectations about retirement. Each of us is an experiment of one. Each of us has our own story about what we hope for, what we expect in retirement. There's an old story about retirement that I grew up with. The old story was grow up, hit a certain age, decline, sail into the sunset. Retirement was about a permanent vacation.
But one of the reasons that vacations during our career work is because they counterbalance all of the things involved in work. You know, for most people, work is one of the most challenging, in a bad way sometimes, but also challenging in a good way. It's one of the most involving, engaging things where we use our skills and strengths to work toward goals and outcomes, and that creates fulfillment. It creates a sense of meaning and purpose. And so our career does all those things for us. And so a vacation that's based on leisure or fun or travel, it's a counterbalance to that. It's valuable. But once we walk out of our work for the last time, it doesn't work as a counterbalance to just then have a leisure-based retirement for 10 or 20 or 30 years.
Retiring can be a positive trigger where it's the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new chapter, an opportunity to restart a new life, to restart and embrace new opportunities, to think about all those possibilities, all those dreams that you may have put on hold, and say, now is the time to embrace them.
So how do we prepare for retirement that offers purpose, value, and meaning? Simple. We need a plan for life. And planning will not only help you get a clearer picture of what you actually want your life to be in retirement, it will be a blueprint for your financial plan. So this next chapter in life will be different for everyone. Everyone wants different things in life. Everyone's version of happiness and meaning is different. But regardless, there are 3 fundamental truths. Surround yourself with the right people in the right place for serving the things you're passionate about. Let's start with people. Relationships and social connection are vital to well-being and happiness, and not in some abstract way. People with strong social connection have lower blood pressure, improved cognitive function, a stronger immune system, and for lots of us, myself included, our social connections are often the people we work with, the people we see every day, for years and years. So what happens when you begin to transition away from the primary role and you lose that daily connection? So here's a great exercise that you can do to help you identify your people. Write down the names of a few people you enjoy seeing on a day-to-day basis. People in your orbit. If not every day, then close to it. And let's exclude family here. Now go through and cross out all the names that are connected to your career, either formally or informally. I'd be willing to bet your list just got shorter, perhaps by a lot. So what do? How do you guard against losing social connection? How do we maintain meaningful relationships or create and build new ones? These are big questions, and we're not going to get to the bottom of them today. This exercise, and really everything we're talking about today, is about planting these seeds in your mind. And the point is that planning for this reality should start well before the sugar rush wears off. Another consideration for your overall well-being in retirement is the place you choose to spend it. If we go by statistics, most of you won't relocate, at least not very far. That's understandable, but think about why you live where you live. Maybe your job brought you there. Maybe it was a family decision. Good schools, a nice place to raise kids. But if you're ready to retire and your kids are out of the house, is it time for a change of scenery? And I promise you, you'll be much better off making those kinds of decisions before you actually have to. So let me share with you another exercise. Up on the screen are some words and phrases that describe where you'll spend your retirement. Write 5 of them down in order of their importance to you. Remember, these choices are just examples. Don't feel restricted by them. Choose anything that's important to you. How did you do? It's kind of an interesting exercise, right? Some of you probably described your current location. Some of you didn't. It's important to do this with your spouse or partner if you have one, but do it separately and then compare. This will help tell you if you're on the same page, and if not, it will give you a good conversation starter. Let's look at passion next. How many of you have heard the saying, do what you love so you'll love what you do? I think you'd be surprised to find how many Americans don't actually love what they do. Retirement is a chance to change that. What excites you? What gets you fired up? What brings you joy? Let's try another exercise. The dream list, the curiosity list, and the mastery list. The dream list, that's simple. Just think of anything you've always wanted to do, a bucket list item, like hiking Kilimanjaro. The curiosity list, what have you always been fascinated by, wanted to learn more about? Maybe it's a history class or a musical or baseball, truly anything. And the mastery list, those things you always had an itch to get good at, thought you'd always like to try, maybe woodworking or baking or painting. I want you to see if you can think of at least one good answer in each column. Purpose. Everything we've discussed so far is important to finding a fulfilling lifestyle. But this one, purpose, you might consider to be the granddaddy of them all. Yet it's the hardest one to pin down, the one we often don't even consider until a big transition causes us to reevaluate our purpose. You may not think it's a big deal, but science disagrees. Neuropsychologists and behavioral scientists say purpose is a very real predictor of how well a person will live and thrive as they age. People who have the sense that their lives are meaningful live longer, and they're less likely to develop disability, suffer stroke, develop Alzheimer's disease, or suffer cognitive decline. But let's back up and really define what we mean by purpose. It doesn't have to be difficult. It's basically the answer to that big question, what am I called to do? And what gets you out of bed in the morning? It's what excites you. It's your value system. And make no mistake, you don't actually find purpose in the traditional sense. It's not out there somewhere in the world waiting for you. It's part of you. You articulate it, you explore it, you live it. And here's the good news. We experience purpose when we surround ourselves with the right people in the right place, doing the things we're passionate about. People, places, passions. And finally, purpose. They're essential to living your best life in retirement. But to get there, you need a plan. And that's why we're discussing this today. You have financial goals, but what's the money for? It's for living the life you want to live. When you build a plan with purpose, one that reconciles your life goals with your finances, it can be a path to a fulfilling retirement. So you spend a lot of time talking to your advisor about the money piece, right? How are we going to maximize our IRAs, our Social Security, and ultimately our income in retirement? Now we're discussing, how do we want to live in retirement? What will we be spending that money on? Often we hear Andy and Stephanie find themselves encouraging retirees to spend more in retirement. Do more with what you saved and enjoy this time that you've worked so hard for. We'll be accompanying this webinar with a PDF of the Find Your Passion worksheet for easy access. We want to encourage you to take some time to think through that and even share that with your advisor. As suggested earlier, this could even be more important than the income planning piece because having money allows you to survive, but having purpose allows you to live. Thanks again for joining us today. Never hesitate to reach out. This is the kind of stuff Stephanie and Andy, as well as the team here at Pulse, love to dig into deeper with folks. We hope you found the information valuable and look forward to connecting with you soon. Take care.